In my last video, I talked about what it is like to be an animator in 2024 in comparison to an animator in 2019. And I think I basically showcased how much harder it is to be an animator nowadays, given all the challenges that you have. However, one of the things that I didn't mention in the video was AI. And it's very much an elephant in the room because AI is super prevalent nowadays. Everybody's thinking about it, and everybody that is an artist and animator is fearful of it because you kind of think about what does this mean for me, my career, my dreams, etc., etc. I already made a couple of videos about talking about AI and what does that mean for you as an animator. However, in this video, I'd like to take a moment to think about AI as if it was really good at animation and capture the soul and all this difficulties that we have to actually go through in animation, and what would that mean for you as an animator in your career, and what would that mean for the future of animation. So without further ado, let's talk about it in this video. Hello and welcome. My name is Harvey Newman. Welcome to the channel if you're new to this channel. At the end of this video, if you enjoy it, make sure you subscribe for more. Make sure you comment below with your thoughts. And I actually want to take a moment to talk about this AI situation because as I was putting together the previous video, I realized that the more I wrote down about AI, the more I realized that this is a video in itself, and I need to make like a version 2 or a part 2 of what I actually published last week, which was, the challenges of being an animator in 2024. So even though we have all those challenges, the biggest difficulty for us is definitely AI. And the reason why I think is the biggest difficulty is because it makes it difficult to see the future clearly. It makes it difficult to have a clear vision of where we're going. So back in the day, when we had 2D animation, especially like, let's think, 70s, 80s, 90s, you think, I want to become an animator, 2D animator, and then as a 2D animator, where should I go? Maybe film, maybe TV, and then you actually do your practice, and then you daydream a little bit of how it is like to be a TV animator, working with, I don't know, looking on Looney Tunes or working in a movie like Tarzan, right? How would that feel like? And that kind of fuels your dreams a little bit. There was a little bit of a shift when 3D animation came along with Pixar and Toy Story, because once again, we were in the same situation as of now. What does that mean? What does that mean for animators, our careers, all the years that we spent thinking and learning about 2D animation? Does that translate? Does that not translate? Will the computer be able to do everything for us? And there was a lot of uncertainty. And I remember that perfectly because, I was about to be an adult at this point, 17 to 19 or 20, 97 to about 2000. And everybody was very much like nervous about it. And there was an uncertainty about the future. And I'm kind of mentioning that because over the years, I've seen this ball of uncertainty kind of like coming up every so often. And it kind of like makes you feel unease about the future, right? So if you wanted to become a 2D animator and then 3D came along and now the future of animation is 3D, what is the point of learning 2D? Same thing with 3D animation now. Like if you are a 3D animator right now and AI is coming and doing everything automated, what is the point of learning 3D animation? And you can say that about a number of different things, right? I mean, same thing with, I don't know, vinyl pressing, if you think about it, or CDs or cassettes or anything that is basically physical at this point. Everything is becoming digital, so what's the point of you collecting or getting or buying anything physical? This is where the crux of the problem lies, and I think we as humans have a tendency that the more we actually advance towards something, the more we feel nostalgic about things that have happened before and we want to go towards that. And I think this is what makes me feel quite certain that animation not only is here for the long run, but also your career as an animator is here for the long run, and your dreams as well are going to stay here in some shape or form, even if AI is absolutely brilliant at making animation. Now, a lot of companies, including NVIDIA and other AI models, have been bragging about how their animations are starting to come along really well. So without going further into reminiscing about the past, I do have to say that animation as it stands right now, created by AI, is really dull and boring. It feels very much like tweening. For those that don't know, tweening is very much like you have a pose here, and then you have a radical different pose hit there, and then you just press animate, and then you see what happens. And what happens is normally like a very slow moving, very linear moving animation that actually looks absolutely rubbish, and it doesn't look appealing whatsoever, right? So this is what AI is doing at the moment in its infancy. However, I expect as it learns more and all these models get better, they will eventually start getting some of the traits that actually make animation appealing that basically we have been doing in film for so many years, in TV for so many years, and now in games. So right now, infancy, so nothing very much to worry about as of now, but going forward is where I would like to focus, right? So if you think about, 10 years from now when AI is really good at it, so what happens then? What happens to the animation, to the animator, to your skills in 10 years when AI cracked animation and now is doing absolutely amazing? So the very first thing that I want to say about that, if AI is absolutely amazing at doing animation, is that the soul of the character or anything that needs to be animated is very difficult to duplicate. So think about the characters that you enjoy the most. Think about a genie, right? Like from Aladdin, created by an AI with no frame of reference, no genie being created before. Most likely it wouldn't be as interesting and as chaotic as it is in the film, and this is why it's beloved by everybody. And you can say that to a number of different things. I don't know, Roadrunner and the Coyote, right? Or if you can think about any number of animations like Tarzan or The Beast or any classic animation, any animation that comes to mind right now, there was a lot of thought and a lot of planning that came with creating the personality of the character before you start animating it, right? So AI right now, the only thing they can do is look at what has been done before and applying it to something that you want to do nowadays. So it only has the information that has been created already, takes from that pool and then creates what he thinks, or the AI thinks is probably best fitting for what you want to do, right? And this is where I think that we'll always be here, because thinking outside the box is what we do best as humans. And animation, especially original animation that is incredibly appealing, requires a lot of thinking outside the box. How would you actually make an Into the Spider-Verse with AI when there's been nothing like it before then? How do you actually make a Toy Story in 3D when the only thing you had previously was 2D? Those things are very unique and very groundbreaking, and I do think that that's where we will live in the future, 10 years from now, let's say, when AI cracks like animation and becomes absolutely amazing. We will live in this world where only the most original ideas, only the most like outlandish ideas, out of the box ideas will live, which is actually really beneficial if you think about it, because only when you actually have an Into the Spider-Verse or a Toy Story can things shift dramatically to actually go into a better place. And only then, like, AI doesn't have enough of a pool of creativity in order to create more Spider-Verses. So there's going to be a period of time where you're going to have a lot of creativity, a lot of human input, a lot of things that we can do in order to actually kind of advance that. And then once that's played out, that's probably when AI will start picking up on those things and creating variations of the same. But people will most likely be bored of that, right? So the Into the Spider-Verse look is very famous now, very seen now. A lot of movies are copying it. Most likely, if not now, people are starting to get tired of the look. So what comes next? That's for us to kind of like work out. That's for us to kind of create, which is actually really, really cool. And I like where that's going. Another thing that I've actually alluded to in a previous video is how people are a big fan of handmade things. So if you think about, the analog clock versus the digital clock came along and everybody went, most likely, and this is, I'm assuming, but most likely this is great, much easier to read than analog clocks, and also, it doesn't break, and also battery lasts for longer, I don't have to wind it up, all kinds of benefits from this analog clock versus the digital clock. However, you can see nowadays how much people value like clockmakers, the Swiss clockmakers, and the more craftsmanship there is into making a watch, right? the more value it has. Same thing with digital music, if you think about it. Same thing with like now digital film, how convenient it is. Nowadays, a lot of teenagers, a lot of young adults are going, I want to go vinyl, I want to go cassettes, I want to go VHS, I want to go DVDs and Blu-rays. And having something physical in your hands is unbeatable and is amazing, and it's just a reminiscing of a time that has gone, right? And I do think that that same thing will happen with AI as well, where you actually kind of like going so much towards you click a button and you give a description and then you get something back of high quality. Then people start wondering, what is the point of me actually animating? But for the people that are actually incredibly passionate about it, once again, Swiss clockmakers, right? Or anybody that actually wants to make a film in actually like, 8mm, or, actually having a roll of film to actually do it instead of digitally and things like that. For those people, there will always be a place for the people that are passionate. And the good thing is that the premiums, the price, what you can charge, goes hugely up, because then, 20 years from now, when anybody that actually shows an illustration and then you realize that that person did it by hand and how rare that is, let's say, and this is in an alternative future, like this will actually look so much more special than actually clicking a button and actually getting a drawing, right? Even if it looks exactly the same, you know that the one that was made by hand took not only longer, but the effort and the craftsmanship and the love that was put into it is incredibly more valuable for people than is the digital version, the version that took just one click. Another example is 2D animation, the resurgency of 2D animation, how it's coming back now to the point where people see it and like, wow, this was actually made by hand. TV shows are a great example of that now, and how they're actually borrowing ideas from 2D animation and applying it to TV shows, because they realize that they can do much better high quality work than they can do in 3D animation, where you'd spend a lot of time making more or less animations that don't look very good. While if you actually make animations on 2s, if you can actually make it snappy, if you can actually make sure that it's on a 2D plane, all of a sudden you can not only streamline the process, but also make it much more appealing for an audience. So those are the things that I think we're actually still discovering, and I think we're gonna get there eventually. And it makes me feel at peace with the fact that you want to be an animator, you want to pursue this career, and there's longevity in this career. Now, two things I think that I'm going to say in favor of AI, which is difficult to say out loud, but it's true. I think that ultimately, and this is a big if, a lot of things that we don't want to do, for example, in games, there's a lot of boring animation that you need to do in games in order to get it to actually look fulfilling and amazing, and you don't even see the animation. So for example, transitional animation, so going from idle to run, or like going left or going right, or aiming right or aiming left, or having a blank space that basically does this. An animator needs to create those things now. There's value to do it by hand. However, those things are incredibly boring creatively for an animator. You much rather be working on a really cool idle, or a really cool run, or a really cool idle break. So those things I think are going to be incredibly valuable to say, like, I need a variation of this animation and feed it, and then maybe have like 3 or 4 different variations now. Or perhaps you actually have like a transitional animation from going from idle to run. You feed it the idle, you feed it the run, create a transition that is interesting. And because the transitions are so small, they're normally like 10 frames, 5 frames long, you barely see it anyway, so you can just add that stuff in and make sure that it's fulfilling. Something else that I need to mention here is about motion matching. Normally you need a library of a bunch of different animations. You have to go to a mocap studio, kind of create a bunch of animations, clean them up, kind of like dice them up correctly and stuff. Maybe AI is going to help us out at kind of like cleaning that stuff, making sure that loops are correct, making sure that animations are the correct length, things like that, things development time in order to kind of like get these things to be fed into game. So that's the only positive that I can see in AI right now when it comes to animation, and when it comes to helping us out as a tool to alleviate the burden of not only the boring, but also time. And lastly, I would like to leave you here with a quote by Gary Vaynerchuk. And the reason why is because I think this relates to a lot of our industry in games, but also animation. And he talks about crunch, and he talks about like working too hard and burnout, right? A lot of burnout comes from different reasons, especially in animation. But one of the biggest reasons, and this is why I was mentioning the positives of AI, is because you have to work incredibly hard. And what you see in the end is like a little bit only of all the work that was done previously. So film, you have to do a lot of research, you have to do a lot of, thumbnailing, and you have to do a lot of failed shots to get to the final shot. But you only see the final shot, right? So I think that AI might be a tool that helps us with burnout to make sure that we focus on the creative only. However, what Gary says here is that the root cause of burnout often lies in the lack of understanding on why you are doing what you are doing. Are you doing animation and this passion that you have for animation for affirmation, or are you doing it for money, or are you doing it for fame? Obviously not fame, because it's not like you can become a famous animator, maybe within the animation industry, but this is basically what he mentions. And then basically what he says next is that if so, you're on a fast track to burnout. Find joy in what you do. Be it is better than seeming it. I thought that was really, really deep, because after all this is said and done, and you're thinking about being an animator and career-wise in the future of animation, that's a little bit like pointless, at least in my view. Because if you think about it, if you're really, really passionate about animation, and if you really want to do it because it's innate to you and this is what you feel joy doing, what happens next really doesn't matter, because you're doing it for yourself. You should be doing it for yourself, by yourself, and hoping that people like it. But as long as you're happy with it, that's all that matters. And it doesn't matter if AI comes along, doesn't matter if it's 2D animation, doesn't matter if it's 3D animation, doesn't matter if it's stop motion, whatever rocks your boat, do it, and do it for you, because then it really doesn't matter. Even if AI becomes the best animation tool ever, and now all the animators work off a room somewhere by themselves, and nobody can actually do animation handmade ever again because AI is here, at least you are doing animation by yourself and you are having fun animating, right? So I hope that it makes you feel a little bit more at peace. This is how I think about AI. When AI becomes incredibly good at animation, but for now we are safe. But just think about it in those terms if it helps you, because it kind of like puts things in perspective in a way that it's not about the future and work and money, it's about you doing it for yourself. I hope that helps out. If you enjoyed this video and you're not subscribed yet, please consider subscribing and leave a comment down below. Let me know about your thoughts. Let me know about what do you think about AI. I know that it's still a hot topic and it's probably going to be for the next few years, but I would love to actually kind of like see what people are thinking, how they're feeling. If you like to more videos like this, absolutely okay to do it. Give me some ideas in the comments. I'll be happy to help out. And until the next video, as always, stay well, stay safe. Peace.